So with that in mind, again, a very warm welcome to all of you to this 200 Intelligent and Climate Neutral Cities Jam. I will then go to the agenda, and we're in this round of introductions right now, but let me also just share my screen. Let's see, do you see the agenda? You see the agenda, very good. So we'll start with a short round of introductions. Then I will give the floor to Lene van de Bokken, the Amsterdam Smart City Program Director, to give a bit more context on how Amsterdam Smart City came to participate in the Intelligent Cities Challenge and how we think about accelerating this twin transition, the digital transition and the green transition. And then we will hear 4 short pitches from ICC and CNC stakeholders. And then we would like to come to a discussion with everyone else. So this is what we have planned for the next 50 minutes, so quite high pace. So I'm going to move right along. It's nice to start with a round of introductions, and in this Zoom setup, then Mentimeter seems to work quite well. So if you can please go to menti.com and using this code 93835842, we would like to just get a sense of your role and your organization, and you can type. You should have the possibility of adding 2 answers, so you can use the first slot for your role and the second one for the organization. Then we should have quite a nice view of who is here right now. Okay, so we have City of Zwolle, we have TNO. I see some advisors, probably also some entrepreneurs, because I see a founder, business developer, strategy consulting, geospatial data and analytics. RVO, of course, is here. Joint Research Center, JRC. So I think, yeah, also architect I see. So quite a nice overview and quite a nice mix. So again, a very warm welcome to you all for joining us today. Oh, it's still moving. Okay, so we see, I guess, the elements of the triple helix at least. So we see the university, but also certainly the policymaking and governmental sector and businesses being represented. I'm not so sure if we see a lot of civil society organization for now, but probably we'll get to a discussion about the role of citizens as well. I don't see too much movement anymore, so then I will go to the next slide to get an idea of whether you're already involved with the ICC or, well, whether you are perhaps an aspiring climate neutral city, let's say, or a stakeholder, or are you involved in ICC and also anticipating or planning to join the Climate Neutral City Challenge? So let's get a sense of how this split looks like. Okay, so again, quite nice mix, I would say. If you selected other, then also please feel free to, because there's quite a few of other, then please also share that in the chat. So maybe what is your interest or your connection, if you're willing to share that. Then if I go to the next, and this will be, let's say, the final question for this intro session. So in one word, if you're going to, what do you think is needed to accelerate this twin digital and green transitions? So this can basically be your vision or your recommendation or a key element. just kind of popcorn style to get the discussion started. So very curious to see your thoughts on this question as well. We need magic, okay, and cooperation. So maybe we need this, quite rigorous, let's say, process, but also a little bit of serendipity. So some things that we can plan for. And we also need, I see, to share solutions. We need funding, a shared ambition, certainly, innovative thinking, a lot of sharing, open data and platforms. So data is coming up quite a bit. So data authenticity is maybe an interesting one. I would like to maybe invite whoever wrote down data authenticity, if you don't mind taking the floor, either to speak out to what you mean by that or to share it in the chat.
Yeah, actually.
Please.
Is it working through my, hold on one sec.
I can hear you. I can't immediately tell who is speaking, but I believe it's Branford, is it so?
Yep. Hi,
Please.
everyone. Sorry, it's early in the morning here in the States. No, name is Bradford Fulto, and the reason I said data authenticity is a number of my customers, when it comes up to their data sets, they get this standardized solution to them, and it never answers all their questions, or it never adds in their extra, I want to know this about my sewer pipes, or I want to know this about my electrical system, blah, 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 blah. So making, well, like what we do, enabling our customers to have that data authenticity. So one of our water districts has, a certain way of thinking about their water system. The other one has a completely different way of thinking about the water system, but they share that data in a common place, and we find bridges between those gaps. And we say that this is what they're doing, this is how they look at it, this is what you're doing, this is how you look at it. And it's fascinating to see how that develops within their own. So it's allowing people to be their own and have their own data, but also finding that common place where it shares with everyone else. Kind of
okay, thank you, Branford, for that explanation. And certainly, I think that's also what we hear quite often. On the one hand, we want to transfer best practices and solutions, but we also know you can't copy paste everything exactly. So finding that sweet spot between the things that are transferable and the things that need to have that appreciation for the local context is very important. And maybe we'll come back to this discussion again. But when I look at this overview, then I also absolutely think the shared dimension as, so collaboration, cooperation in the middle, but then certainly this shared ambition, this the shared value proposition, all of this comes through. Shared solutions, and also very importantly, we see leadership, strong leadership, funding. So hopefully if we can bring all of these elements together, then we don't need magic. But very curious to hear from the perspectives of all the speakers today. So without further ado, then I would like to stop sharing my screen for now. Thank you all for these for sharing already these thoughts, and please feel free to also share your thoughts and reactions to the presentations. So you don't have to wait for the round of discussions to start engaging in the content that's being presented. Without further ado, then I would like to go to Lene van de Bokken. Lene, will you take us through a little bit and give us a bit more context on Amsterdam Smart City and actually why we're here today?
Yeah, lovely to be here. Thank you, Cornelia. And I guess if we bring all this stuff together, like you said, we don't need any more magic. I think when this stuff comes together, magic has happened. And that might be even the reason why I'm here and why Smart City is here. We're trying to make something, create something magical, not only the outcome, but even coming over there. And great for the lineup you've organized, the people who are going to speak today. So I'm honored to be here, but I'm also very honored on the lineup of people joining us, which is a great audience. And I truly hope you stay connected after today and use the chat if you hear something useful. Well, let me take you very briefly to Amsterdam Smart City and why we're here. I already was sharing my screen, but I went wrong. But now, and someone's coming into the room. Cornelia? Yeah.
I'll take care of that, Lene. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Because still people are coming in. Well, I'm Lene van der Bokken, Program Director of Amsterdam Smart City for 2.5 years now, and I'm very happy to do so. And today, what I'm also very proud of is we already work for quite a while with Dana later on this Intelligent Cities Challenge as a mentor region. And this Neutral Climate Cities Challenge mission is coming up. And we thought, wow, this is so much opportunity to align. Let's already start aligning and trying to figure out how we can stand upon each other's shoulders. So this is, and for us, I will show you throughout the slides why we are as a mentor region in this, in both, and well, this is mostly, I guess, why. We all know the world is in transition, and some people complain, telling changes are happening so fast. But when you look closely enough, you will see changes are not happening fast enough. Climate change is happening very fast, and the way we are adapting to it and moving forward to different use of energy, for example, does not go fast enough at all. So as Amsterdam Smart City, we try to speed up the process a bit. And we strongly believe, like today, that an open and safe space is needed. A space where you can come, where you feel trusted, where you feel at home, and where you can meet like-minded and not like-minded people to have an interaction of ideas, thoughts, knowledge, and really create and cooperate to move further. And we are this open and safe space, a platform for innovation, connecting people. And we do so already for 12 years, even more than 12 years. So I'm very happy to be head of this platform for only 2 years, but it was here. And you see some very old pictures here from like 12 years ago. And what I'm very proud of is when it was founded, it was challenge driven by a couple of people who were very curious, worried mostly about energy transition. What would happen 12 years ago? We need to shift from fossil to renewal. We need to shift from central to decentral. How are we going to do so? And there was someone else very busy in the smart and innovation part of the city, and the both of them found each other, said, what would happen if we put this mission first, use technology as a means, and let's do so with citizens and entrepreneurs and not only the city and a big corporation. And this is what happened. And you see it in the middle of this picture, this happy woman, but with a cubicle. And this was the first measuring of energy use for stores within a street of Amsterdam. And this was the start of a lot of smart energy systems we have now, because when we know how much we use and when we use, we know how to use less, because this will be one of the most important stuff in this energy transition. Let's use less, and still we're going to use more. Well, so this was the very start, and it started so only in Amsterdam and only with energy, and we've moved away from that in 12 years by with what is called an Amsterdam innovation approach, and this has expanded to the whole region. But what characterizes us, I guess, is this multi-stakeholder collaboration. Was said before as well. You do not, if you want to innovate, you need all parties available, co-working, but always embedded in this ecosystem. Sometimes stuff comes up from the ecosystem and then you need to connect it to the formal system. Sometimes it's the other way around, but the both of them need to find each other. The way we work is always experimenting and living labs. So it's not an engineering approach where you try within rooms, but you always go out and whatever, you try something and you fail. It's just a learning. And you try to learn and you move on again. Very important, as I said already, we have expanded to regional scale for cities, at least in the Netherlands, but I guess this is true for a lot of Europe, are too small to focus only on a city scale. I'll get back to that later. And for us, very important, we're not about only tech solutions, but having this combination with social innovation as well. If you have bottom-up approach, if we have car sharing systems, let it not only be car to go. We could also have car sharing system between citizens. Then you will have a social innovation as well. So how can we combine both, which will be much more meaningful? And we are directed so not to creating smart cities, totally not interested in that. A smart city looks very cold and technical. We are about having these happy, thriving, climate neutral cities for all, accessible for people who do not live there but want to visit the culture or want to go to work there. So an open city as well. But we use smart city techniques, of course. Without smart city techniques, we will not face the transitions. We will not solve them, the ones we are facing. Well, you can read them here. We are focusing only on 4: energy transition, circularity, mobility, and the digital transition. And we combine them all the time, because whatever you do, when we shift mobility towards electricity, here in the Netherlands, and in Amsterdam at least, we get shortages on energy grid, for example. So we need to combine, and everything we do with reuse of products, circular economy, has a burden on logistics. So all of this is connected. And a lot of us, it can be solved by using digital techniques. We don't have, as a program, we don't have any more challenge KPIs. We have value KPIs. I need even KPIs, but we have values in place. We believe that if you use smart innovations and you want them to be prevent from becoming dystopian, you need these values in place. So it's always citizen, human central, people centric. And I learned from a podcast a couple of weeks ago, we need to have planet central. And I can shift immediately towards public value. If you use smart techniques, it has to be not only be of convenient, I can shut off the light with my smartphone, but let it have an extra public value as well. Because of the planet, it has so many electricity and scarce resources, all our smart techniques, it has to be of public value. If not, it's only doing damage to the earth, and we should stop using it. The way we work, I already said, always about open and transparency, so we can learn from each other and have this learning approach. This is what we believe, then you can have truly meaningful innovation. And now my screens get stuck, which is very sorry. Here they are, some examples of what we are doing. And we always try to do what can be done in Amsterdam, can we scale it? And that's why we have this international platform. I would very much invite you to visit. Just 3 examples. The left one is Hollandse Luchten here, citizens sensing how bad actually is the air quality, and they're combining the outcome of the results with the authorities and working towards a program to solve it. The middle one, I was present at the opening. I'm very much fond of this one. This is a startup we also have in our ecosystem, connected to the Port of Amsterdam, far from a startup, 750 years in place already. And they both are working on a flexible energy system. So they have a better way of green energy produced when there was an excess, and they can put it anywhere at a moment where there is need for extra green energy. So this is a great combination of technique, innovation, and ecosystem. And the right one I love a lot, because this is about AI for cities. A lot of stuff we're trying to solve has the need for AI, but we have learned you have to move very cautiously with AI. It can do so much damage. So let's try to open up and learn from what has happened and have this open approach and again, a human-centered approach. Some lessons, and then I'm going to finalize. Cornelia, please read it. Building ecosystem, then this is what we are about here today, also is hard work. But people always look at, oh, an ecosystem, happy and fun. It's not a Sunday walk in the park. You need to take time and have a true understanding of where is the other. Why is he working so slowly, for example, if it's a huge corporation? Why is he doing this? It is curiosity, which is a bit further away. It's hard work, it takes curiosity, it takes an open mind, it takes time, but if you do right, it takes a lot of different methods, because we're all different, but if you do right, we strongly believe that if we use the combination of purpose and fun, urgency and creativity, then you really have these creative, needed results which the Earth, our region, and our global and other cities need. And then I would like to end with, well, if you want to contribute to this movement, join share your knowledge, share your questions, please go over to our platform and share whatever you have, what could be very needed for other people. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Leonie. If there are questions or comments for Leonie, then please, you can start sharing those also in the chat. And otherwise, without further ado, also because we're a little bit behind schedule, I will try to catch up a little bit. I would like to go to the first of the 4 perspectives. And it's my pleasure then to invite Dana Eleftheriou. Dana, I'm very sorry for having such a hard time pronouncing your last name. But it's really a pleasure that you could join us and that you can take us through and give some more background to what the Intelligent Cities Challenge is. I think for us, for some people in the room, they have a lot of background to it, but for some people, I think it's quite new. So please, the floor is yours and you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Cornelia, Leonie. It's an honor to be here with you today. I'm Dana Eleftheriou. I'm heading the Citizen Proximity team in the European Commission's Department for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and Small and Medium Enterprises. And indeed, in charge of the Intelligent Cities Challenge program. Wait a minute. Can you all see my screen now?
We can see it now. It's not in full screen mode yet.
Exactly. I will do so. The thing is, well, I have the window.
I think.
Yeah, voila. Okay. Can you see the full screen now?
Not just yet. I'm not sure if it's still loading. Oh, now we see it in full screen, but we also see your viewer. We see the viewers format. So we can also see the following slide in your notes. So maybe it's better, Dana, if you try.
Yeah, the slideshow, no?
This one, yeah. Try that one. Let's see.
Yeah, but that's what I had before, I guess. Yeah, I see now what you. Okay. I don't know how to resolve that.
Yes, it's not a. Maybe if you go back to the previous. I think
you always have the next one, I guess.
Yeah, this is fine, Dana. If you don't mind that we can see
All right.
one slide ahead, that we have a small.
Never mind.
Please go ahead.
Great, thank you very much for the opportunity, Cornelia. So. For the sake of time, I would like to put a little bit the policy context before I explain what is the Intelligent Cities Challenge. Well, in May, we came up with the updated European Industrial Strategy. And the new European Industrial Strategy, the objective was to align with the major political priorities and also the challenges that we are all facing. This is very much, of course, the climate mitigation and the post-pandemic world, so how we imagine the future. The new industrial strategy revolves around these 14 industrial ecosystems. I will spare you from going from one to the other, but the idea of the ecosystem here is not dealing with one particular sector, like, for example, automotive, but taking the whole ecosystem around, let's say, large and small enterprises, the researchers, the social economic players, the civil society, and so on and so forth. And examine how to capture more value in Europe. That's the main essence. As you will see, one of the 14 industrial ecosystems in focus for this European Commission is the so-called proximity and social economy ecosystem. That's where I work, and that's where the Intelligent Cities Challenge are stemming off. The proximity economy actually depicts a vision for the local, that gives value to the local economy, to the local production and consumption, to the green transition, green and digital transition of small and medium enterprises that are in the local economy, and also considers the move that we see very much in the post-COVID era, the move towards more human-centric models, for a city like, for example, the 15-minute city. So that is where we are starting from, and let's say, okay, here we go. And that's what we also have vision to do with the Intelligent Cities Challenge. The Intelligent Cities Challenge is actually a program of my Directorate General that seeks to help cities, and we are working with 136 cities right now. We help them to drive a green and digital transition, a green and digital recovery, as we are speaking for the post-COVID era, but also social resilience. And the way to do that is through technology, innovation, and new business models. It is very much a community, it's an existing community of 136 cities, out of which 15 cities have the role of mentor cities. Amsterdam is one of those, as Lene and Cornelia said before, and we're grateful for that. The role of the mentor cities are actually, they are participating pro bono, I would say, in the program, and their role is to inspire others, smaller cities, on what works well, what are the major trends, urban trends, what are the major technological advancements that we see, and how cities in the role of the proximity, as hubs of proximity economy, can benefit from those. In the Intelligent Cities Challenge, we focus around these 5 areas, these 5 thematic priorities. One of these is the green and digital, so the green economy and local green deals. I will say a few words in a moment. The others are the green and digital transition, tourism, the citizen engagement and digitization of public administration, the upskilling and reskilling of the local ecosystem, and finally, the local supply chains, strengthening the local supply chains, logistics, and the economics of mobility. With this program, we practically help, we are practically providing one-to-one support to each one of the participating cities through international experts, world-known experts, and access to proximity and different capacity building tools. We're also offering so-called transversal services, and those are, we are helping cities with access to finance, innovative and social and green, I would add, public procurement, and open data. We've heard about that before. Here is just a slide to take a view of what are the cities that are participating in the Intelligent Cities Challenge. This is an existing community, and in green you will see the mentor cities, out of which 10 are European, including Amsterdam, and 5 are non-EU cities, in order to give it an international dimension and get inspiration from non-EU cities like Singapore, Toronto, Phoenix, etc. Now I would like to highlight here today 4 of the lessons learned so far. I mean, it's very much in progress, the Intelligent Cities Challenge, but through our work with cities, we learned already a few lessons. And one of those is that political leadership matters, is of essence, but equally important, the collaborative participation, collaborative creation, practically. So indeed, we have seen, especially as we are working with small to medium cities, that the full engagement of the mayor, of the local political leader, is absolutely important to give the direction. But what is equally important to understand for the cities is that this alone is not enough. So unless you have the whole local ecosystem that Lene mentioned before, how difficult it is to get it right, and I would support this, it is difficult to bring together the local ecosystem, meaning the local companies, large companies, small startups, the academia, the knowledge institutions, social entrepreneurs, civil society. They all need to take ownership of this transition. So if you really want your city to succeed in this green and digital and socially resilient transition, you need to have commitment and engagement, actions, not only by the city, the local authorities, but also very much by the private authorities, by the public sector. Excuse me, public and private sector. One solution to this is that when we are working with the cities in order to create a common vision, a common strategy, and then an implementation plan on how to reach not necessarily climate neutrality, but more sustainable practices, I would say, we have a common public-private roadmap. We would very much encourage cities to put in their planning also private sector initiatives in order for them to demonstrate their commitment, but also in order to commit to investments and not only to engagements, but also to investments to make it happen. And we see this practice that is working well with very successful cities. The other thing we are doing is we are creating some intelligence from already existing wisdom in some of the intelligent cities challenge cities, and notably from the mentor cities. Like, for example, the local green deals. I would like to stop a little bit on this one. We know that Amsterdam is among the first cities that came in December, if I'm not wrong, December 2020, with announcing the metropolitan region commitment to local green deals. Other cities are working on similar approaches. There is not one way to do that. Other cities are calling them sustainability strategies, climate action, adaptation action, etc. But we have seen that it's high moment, if we wish to align to the major political priority of the European Green Deal, it is high time to turn the local engagement and commitment into concrete action. And that's what we plan to do with the local green deals. So this is a co-creation approach we have done together with the cities. We sought good examples from about 10 cities, and we created a blueprint, a local green deals blueprint that actually will is presenting 4 principles. I talk about them a little bit before that. So it's about governance, it's about integrated goals, partnership with the local ecosystem, and then really moving from engagement to action, make it happen. Now, tomorrow, we are holding a mayor's event together with the Committee of the Regions. And it's exactly on the local green deals. And we will present the blueprint. It will go publicly, officially public tomorrow. After the mayor's event, I would welcome all of you that would have an interest to participate. It is at 11:30 tomorrow, online, of course. And immediately after this, I will have collected, the blueprint will go public, but also collected a number of statements by cities that engage with this process. And then later on in September 2021, we will issue a call for proposals to support further the creation of local green deals among European cities. Now, this is one of the major deliverables, but I would like to mention also another one, and then very briefly at the end, a third one. This is about, as I said, technology and innovation and business models are the means to help cities become more in the sustainability path, let's say. So with this in mind, we have launched during the Intelligent Cities Challenge City Lab that we had a couple of weeks ago, the Tech for Good marketplace. This is supposed to be, is meant to be a trusted platform that hosts solutions and business models that are technology powered, but that serve good economic, social, and environmental purposes. This was a bottom-up request. This came from the cities. Many of those had already very well-developed solutions that were developed mainly by local entrepreneurs or the local university. So they wanted an exchange platform where they could show what worked for them and they would recommend that for the others. With the same coin, this may create some market for the local entrepreneurs who have created these solutions. So this is new. This started 2 weeks ago. It is now publicly available, and we would welcome any of you that would like to recommend a solution, that you're proud of the solution that is working at your place, not necessarily only for cities, but as I said, can be for social economy partners, for resilience. So anything that can be tech for good, with a flavor, of course, of local entrepreneurship would be good to to feature in the Tech for Good marketplace. And then last but not least, thank you yet, I would like to mention the role of cities for reskilling. So again, I will refer to the good example of Amsterdam. We have seen Amsterdam, the whole regional area, taking very bold action at the beginning of the pandemic by reskilling quickly staff that remained idle, for example, like in airports and areas like this that shut down from one day to the other, and moving them where real needs existed, like in healthcare workers or in the supply chain, supermarkets, etc. So many other cities have done so, and with this in mind, we collected good practices, not only through the pandemic, but also the role that cities play to organize their local ecosystem in order to understand and anticipate the skills needs for the future, and then being able to quickly reskill and shift people to where the new needs emerge. So we have created another guide, the cities guide for reskilling, that was presented, discussed during the ICC City Lab, but which will go public in the next couple of weeks. This is all I would like to share with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dana. And if we're not able to share the links right now, then we will certainly add them to the Amsterdam Smart City platform with a short recap session and those resources that you mentioned. So the reskilling guide, but also the blueprint for green deals. And Dana, I was also looking and trying to pull it up myself, but maybe you have it handier, the live stream for tomorrow's session. If that's something that can be shared, then maybe you can also share that in the chat.
Absolutely, I will put it on the chat, yes.
And if there's any other questions or comments for Dana, please share those also in the chat. And in the meanwhile, let's go right away, Dana, to your colleague at the European Commission, Harry Townder, who will very briefly introduce the climate neutral cities mission for us. Dana, if you can also stop sharing your screen.
Yeah, sure.
And Harry, I believe you should be able to share your screen now.
I will try, yes.
And Harry, also a warm welcome to you, and thank you for accepting our invitation to tell us about the climate neutral cities mission.
Is this visible?
Yes, it is. It's not yet in presenters mode. Oh, it is now. It just took a small delay. It's in presenters mode now. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. I have a few more slides, but I will try to be short. I'm working at the European Commission at DG Research and Innovation. I'm part of the what is called Cities Mission Secretariat. We have been preparing for this mission since more or less 2 years now. The cities mission is one of the 5 missions where you have the symbols here in the slide. You have also a mission on climate adaptation, on cancer, on soil, and on oceans. What it is, it's a new instrument on the Horizon Europe, and it tries to actually do something which is originating from research and innovation, but goes beyond in terms of societal impact it tries to achieve. So it's something where, for example, the city's mission, it will have to have a very clear goal, what it is supposed to be and when it should be there. It is supposed to be citizen-centered, and it's a bottom-up process. It's inspired by what the Americans had with the moonshot mission, basically trying to be very ambitious to put a man on the moon in a certain time there. Okay. So what is this cities mission about? It is to create 100 climate neutral smart cities by 2030. And it's actually a twin aims we have. It's also that these cities will themselves be the examples for the other European cities to become climate neutral by 2050, which is the goal of the Green Deal as well, to have Europe being a climate neutral continent there. So why is this? And I think you probably know better than I do. 75% of citizens live in cities. You see that they account for 65% of energy consumption, the CO2 emissions there. And there's already quite a lot of work ongoing in cities about climate neutrality. However, never it was aimed to go for a certain date, which is the 2030 timeline. And the other part, which is also more or less missing at this stage, is the cross-sectoral and innovation approach there, which basically we try to stimulate there. Now, there's lots of things already ongoing at urban level, at cities level. And here's the picture. You see also the Intelligent Cities Challenge, which is also mentioned there. The point is, there's nowhere where there is climate neutrality for cities at a certain time. All these initiatives and all these programs there are very often looking at sectoral approach, not really within the specific aim of achieving climate neutrality there, and neither with a real timeline linked to that. So this is actually what is the novelty of what is being proposed for the city's mission there. What the mission tries to do is to federate those initiatives there and to make something which is very understandable also for citizens, what we try to do with this mission there, namely this climate neutrality by 2030. What are the elements of the mission? The main instrument of achieving this mission would be the conclusion of what is called climate city contracts. That would be after an expression of interest by the Commission launched, where cities can come forward there. They will have time to create their climate city contracts in which they indicate how they would move to climate neutrality by 2030. They will be assisted by something which is called a mission platform, which would help try to find funding and financing, but also make the deployment which is necessary for climate neutrality bankable for this. We hope to achieve a mission label, which actually would help us in the European system, but also with regional and national authorities to unlock synergies with this program, because as we just saw, there's lots of things already happening there. It will still have research and innovation as well, but mostly linked to what we would call the second wave for cities who will not be able yet to go for climate neutrality by 2030, but in the intermediate period afterwards. It would require innovative city governance, and you already heard a little bit about this multi-stakeholder approach and other things there. And it's really a challenge to change these habits about how things are being managed, either at local level or also in the Commission itself. We have worked together with 12 different Directorate Generals to develop this mission. And it has not been always a very easy process there, because very often it's very sectoral. It will create a common framework for monitoring, reporting, and verification, meaning that this group of 100 cities or even more would basically be able to compare about what kind of progress they would make. And it would also help the citizens to understand how much progress their city is going to undergo there. City climate contract is one of the central elements there. It's based and inspired by something which is already there in Sweden, which is the viable cities, where there, I think, are at this moment 12 cities who have concluded the contract already. It would be assisted by what is called the mission platform, which basically will give technical and other advice there. And in these contracts, to be able to be developed there, there would be actually all the stakeholders to be involved, meaning the national authorities for the national climate energy plans, the regions, local stakeholders, citizens engagement should be in, but also private industry, as was mentioned already there. Why is this? Because otherwise this climate city contract and the approach which would be there would not be sustainable. It's to be signed by a mayor or somebody equivalent, which could make an engagement there. And we will try to be witness at the Commission level. The platform itself will help and assist cities. You see for this famous contract, for investment, trying to find access to other programs, but also to loans and lending facilities there. It will have some social innovation citizens engagement part in there, where there will be solutions to be tested, also in place of social practice and behavior. And it also will be look at how we can have systemic solutions in lead cities, which will allow twinning for other cities who would come a bit later.
Harry,
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Maybe I think you're coming to the end of the presentation, but I'd like to just ask you to wrap it up in 1 minute so we have the last 10 minutes for the reflection. Thank you.
Okay, I got too enthusiastic about the details there. So as you see here, the other slide, the platform will undertake quite a number of support functions and functionalities. I won't go in there. The RNI content is the idea about the twin goals of the mission, meaning the idea about also having the example of the 100 cities, helping the other cities to move forward there. And I think one last point I want to make is that with the idea of the 100 climate neutral cities, it is the idea of having basically a scaling up, which should be possible there. What we have seen is one of the issues is replicability and scaling up of innovative solutions. There have been many pilots, lighthouses and other projects already. Very often they're not being picked up. We hope with this city's mission that could happen. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Harry. And it's nice to see this very holistic approach, very ambitious approach. Also, I think it reminds me also from what we saw in the word cloud at the start, also the sense of urgency by putting that 2030 timeframe very clear and very ambitious. There is one question about the deadline for applying. So maybe if you can briefly touch on the process and the upcoming months, that would be very helpful, I think, for some of the participants.
Okay, with respect to the mission itself, first of all, it doesn't exist yet. It's in the preparatory phase. We hope to have a decision on the mission at the end of this month, on the 29th, so in 1 week, by the commissioners. If that would be positive, we expect to launch a call for interest in September, October this year. And that would be open for another 3-4 months at least, allowing cities to come forward. After that, there would be a process of co-creating the climate city contracts, which we would estimate would be between 1 and 2 years. So this is the indicative timeline at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Then maybe if you can also, you already stopped sharing your screen, that's great. So
Yes.
then we'll go to two very, let's say, quick reflections or responses. The first one from Christian Noorde from City of Amsterdam's International Office. Christian, would you like to just share from the City of Amsterdam's perspective, how do you look at these two presentations and your thoughts for maybe joining the climate neutral mission?
Sure. Thanks, Cornelia, and thanks, Dana, and also Harry for your presentations. I think just to give a quick reflection on the climate neutral cities, at least that's where I'm also working on the City of Amsterdam. I think it's a very interesting mission and also initiative. I think also the slide that Harry showed earlier with all the different activities that are already happening within the Green Deal. The real common goal is also to achieve this climate neutrality, and this really is an integrated effort, and Europe is one of the main stakeholders in this whole effort, and I think it's absolutely crucial that they are jointly working with cities, with national governments to achieve this. So if this is done by this mission, this is definitely a step in the right direction. So we're very interested in how this will develop. I think also one of the things that Harry touched upon is I think it's crucial that it should not be a contract or a project that is being set up separately of everything that's already happening. Amsterdam is well, sometimes overwhelmed on how big of an impact this whole climate neutrality actions really have on the city. Just look at the windmill discussion that some of you might have heard of. I think it's important that the way we cooperate with the National Climate Agreement, for example, the European Commission could be an added partner in this whole structure, instead of that we kind of set up something totally new. And I think this is something that we should definitely look into. So how does it connect with the national energy and climate action plans? So that's also something that we're keen on. Looking at the connections, maybe also what Jacobine can tell a little bit more about. And I think some of the topics that has already been mentioned is also how to find this one common place to create a strategic learning environment. We've seen many examples. I think there's unlimited amount of networks that all have their working space, that their shared knowledge centers, and we need to find a way where everything is being combined or connected. I think this is definitely a challenge, but I think there's also some interesting networks that can play an important role in that. And I think this is also, of course, where the 100 ICC can play a role, but also the Joint Research Center, of course. So we're keen on looking at how this will develop as well. And I think another part, the discussion always on climate neutrality always comes down also to finance. How should we finance this, and how can we find a financing mechanism that all these sectoral approaches that we have in the Commission, but also in the city, of course, can help each other in creating climate neutrality. And I think this is definitely a challenge for the EU to make that work, because we have a lot of similarities, of course, in our challenges with cities, but I think the situation, for example, in the Netherlands is completely different than, let's say, Hungary, where one financing instrument might be very useful, but in the Netherlands it might not work. So I think we have to look at some tailor-made structures that actually support the cities and to achieve this goal. And this is also something Amsterdam really wants to jointly work with. And my final comment is on the targets, which is now set on 2030. Amsterdam wants to be climate neutral, or aims to be climate neutral in 2050. I think it's a very tricky point for a lot of cities when the national plans to be climate neutral are in 2050. It's very difficult for a city to achieve, to have a whole city to be climate neutral in 2030, since we are so depending on everything that's happening outside of the city to actually achieve that. So I think it's something we have to look into on, do we enforce the 2030 targets, and is it even possible? We all want to, but I think we have to look at an integrated way. You cannot have separate parallel targets in terms of time. So I think this is something that needs to be, let's say, maybe discussed a little bit further.
Thanks, Christian. Lots of food for thought and a lot of dilemmas also to consider further. Then very, very briefly, it's really unfortunate that we're running out of time for the discussion, because I think we're just really getting started in a sense. So I think we'll also have to continue this conversation probably in a future session in the fall potentially. But Jacobine, because you've been so involved in actually organizing this whole mission, and I think you've been part of a lot of the sessions. And I think you also had some reflections or some final remarks, and then maybe one final question or feedback for the other speakers. So it's great to just give you the floor to also, I guess, unfortunately, wrap up the session.
Okay, well, thank you, Cornelia, and thanks to all the speakers for being here, and of course, all the listeners. What I want to say is that all the main challenges, as we've learned, are in cities. The earning potential is very high, but so is the risk. And what we actually want to do is we want to create awareness that doing business in cities is different than doing business between industry partners alone. And if you want to gain insights in earning potential of climate neutrality, that it's actually an investigation in how you can diminish the risk of entrepreneurship. And what we feel actually is that the initiatives like 100 intelligent cities, 100 climate neutral cities are actually initiatives that create virtual ground and common ground for ecosystem, which needs leadership and service innovation and process innovation. And what we actually wanted to establish with this 2-day event was more or less that we create awareness between the quadruple ecosystem that we have in the Netherlands, but also abroad. That the European Union is not only a place for subsidies, but it's also a place where you can get frameworks, ambition, and inspiration, actually, on which all the parties of the quadruple helix can build their ecosystems or their value propositions on and create a common proposition. For this session, the time is up, but actually at 4 o'clock we have the ending session. Where we are gonna look at, okay, what's the concept of the climate neutral city? What are the building blocks? And if we would be able to meet in the fall, what will we do with each other? Because what I really like about online engagement is that we get the possibility to get all perspectives in one room. The downside is, of course, that we are very siloed in our own rooms, but overall we had over 470 participants during this whole event, which is actually pretty well. But it would be nice to more or less combine it once again all together, but hopefully we will get an opportunity for that in the near future. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacobine. So thank you all again to all the speakers and all the participants for joining us. Again, apologies that we couldn't get into the discussion as much as we wanted to, but certainly I think a topic we'll have to follow up on. We will post a summary of the session and some links to additional resources next week on the amsterdamsmartcity.com platform. And please, if you'd like to join Jacobine in the final session, I think it's actually a really great way to continue the conversation. And I think it's actually very much focused on these building blocks that have to come together in order to really make this climate neutral mission a success. So I'm sure it's not the last time that we'll be discussing these topics. Thanks again to all of you for joining us, and looking forward to continuing the discussion in another session. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.